Bengal cricket team had just won, and they called them in, and they all did a one round of quizzing at DI. Do you
Faint
remember
recollection.
that?
Yeah, very faint.
Long back, yeah.
Yeah,
It was a real happening for all of us.
yeah.
Huge thing,
Yeah.
really big.
Sai, we're good to go if you want.
Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Lovely having you back again. Parsi Club continues to play on the front foot. They continue to lead from the front, keeping everyone in this lockdown entertained, happy, and content. Today, we've got a very, very special guest for you once again. And that is a man who they've called the Renaissance man of Bengal cricket. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it gives us great pleasure to introduce to you our man of the evening, the man of the moment, the man you've been waiting to listen to, Arun Lal. Welcome, Arun. Lovely having you with us.
Thanks, Cyrus. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
And it's so strange that during the lockdown, we live next door to each other, and yet the only way to communicate is on screen. So that becomes a bit of a problem, but we enjoy it still, and waiting for this to live so that we can meet up much more often. And now to get going, here's a man, ladies and gentlemen, who's been playing cricket for a long time, but it was the cricket he played for Bengal, which was truly amazing. But before that, let's ask Arun a little bit about his early years in Delhi. Can you start with that?
Yeah, Cyrus, you know, I come from a cricketing family. My father held the record for the Ranji Trophy associations. He played for 7 associations, and he was in the railways. So wherever he got transferred, he played for that state. And so while growing up, cricket was sort of spoken of all the time. Everything was discussed. My elder cousin brother, he narrowly missed playing for India, Akash Rao. So I was growing up in this atmosphere. It was sort of a natural progression that I would play cricket. I wasn't schooled in it. I wasn't coached in it, but I, like most, sports-friendly kids, would play everything. I was more proficient, as I remember, in racket games. But when I actually came to college in Delhi, St. Stephen's, cricket was a huge thing there. And they, for my luck, I would say, Providence, call it whatever, 7 guys had passed out of college and they were looking for a team. And that's how I got a huge fillip in my cricket. And I managed to play for college, and then from there for the university, and finally for Delhi. So that's how it happened. It wasn't a very conscious decision. Like everything else in my life, I can say I've muddled through life and let life take me where it pulls, and I've just followed. So it's not been a conscious decision to play cricket for India or anything like that. It's just happened.
But when did you feel that cricket was going to be a career?
Growing up, you never felt that you're playing cricket as a career. It just pulled you on, and you started playing better. And, just when things looked a little dismal, you'd get some runs and you'd get selected higher and higher. So it just carried on taking you. And in those days, cricket never paid money, Cyrus. In fact, till I played for India, I didn't quite make money. It was money out of pocket to sustain myself in the game. But it's just, when I think back, it's probably the feel-good factor that you are in a competitive field and you're doing that much better and you're getting so much acclaim. It's more of that than a career decision. In fact, I had to forsake a career in the commercial world.
Right. Now, we've got somebody with us right here who has known you a long time. You coached him as a little boy. I'm sure you'll have some amusing stories to tell us about him. And that is Raizad Balsara. He's now
Yeah.
been captain of the Calcutta Pasi Club for a long time. Raizad, you don't have to check whether you can be heard. Rest assured, you can be heard. So as soon as you come on, just go ahead and ask Arun whatever questions you want.
Hi, sir. Great to have you with
Hi.
us.
Yeah, great to
I
be here.
coach said at Bonvita, and I love the way you spoke to us and explained everything in a very patient manner whenever you'd meet us. I'd like to ask you about about how you took interest in cricket and groomed yourself in your early days, and also have you experienced a better feeling than having played for India?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Representing your country, nothing can be more exhilarating than that. It's the pinnacle of what you've been wanting to achieve. So, in that sense, it's very satisfying. You're also an ambassador of your country. You're representing your countrymen. That's a huge high, and nothing can quite match up to that. I'm still really benefiting personally from that experience. And about cricket and the first part of your question, it's a strange dichotomy with me. I personally lacked ambition. It's not that I ever set out to play cricket with a goal, as people talk about these days, that I want to play for the country. That's my focus. That's my, where I want to be. It never was like that. It's just kept on happening, like everything else in my life just kept on happening. And, I'll tell you a very fine story about this. When I first got selected to play for India, this very dear friend of mine, Mudar Pateria, he's still a very dear friend. He asked me, he was working for Sports World at that time, and he came and interviewed me, and he asked me that now that you're playing for the country, Arun, all your ambitions would have been realized. And I said, Mudar, it was never my ambition to play for India. My ambition is a fulfilling life. And of course, cricket is a contributory factor. My entire ambition is based on a lot more than just cricket. And he misunderstood. And the next headline was, next day, was that my ambition was never to play for India. But taken out of context, it sounded terrible. So a lot of people questioned me on that. But the fact is that even though I lacked that kind of pinpoint ambition, I was very driven. So that's the thing that's very difficult to reconcile. I have never been able to explain it to myself. Very driven, very disciplined, very determined, very conscious that I have to achieve more. Why that was, I don't really know, but it served me well.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Arun. Thank you, Raito. And so, Arun, you started out in Delhi, and then you were already playing Ranji Trophy for Delhi. So, what prompted you to take the move to Bengal and to Calcutta? I mean, we were very, very lucky to get you across, that's for sure. But what brought you here?
Actually, the luck was absolutely mine coming to Bengal and Calcutta, Cyrus. I don't think I would have been half the person if that hadn't happened in hindsight. But I came here only to get a job. It happened that when I finished my master's coming out of Delhi, I got my job here. And I came here for, just in those days, I was in a racket, Cyrus, that I would apply to all these companies, take a lot of airfares and go for interviews and pocket all the money. That kind of a thing and it happened that I came to Calcutta for about 4 or 5 interviews and I landed this job. And since I was at a loose end, I said I'd come here and actually just experience it. I had already got into State Bank in those days, which was going to sponsor my cricket through that probationary officer's exam. And Bishan was a big shot. Bishan Bedi at that time was captain of India. And I had been playing for Delhi. So he'd said, he'd get me a posting in Delhi and everything like that. And everything would be hunky-dory. So I came here for about 3-4 months and I just fell in love with Calcutta. I fell in love with everything about Calcutta and I refused to join State Bank. So I just stayed on here. And then, as you know, I was here in Calcutta, Cyrus, for a couple of years, and I carried on playing for Delhi. But that didn't help because I couldn't do justice to either Calcutta or Delhi or my cricket or my job. So I finally took the decision. By then, I was deeply rooted in Calcutta. So I then decided to move my cricket here as well.
Well, things really fell into place for both, isn't it? It was great to have you here, and what an amazing city we have, isn't it? It's a city with a soul, and it had you snared from the time you came in. Well, that was the formative years, and now we're going to hand you over for a while to Cyrus Nivara. He's in Dubai at the moment, and Debs, all yours, and
Thanks.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hi, Cyrus. Great. Yeah, great to talk to you.
Okay. Just a quick one. Now we've heard you in the formative years. Now let's get into live action, where you got into playing for Bengal and India. I think now you will be in a better position to answer this question. How difficult is it to get into the Indian team when you were getting in 1982? That's my first question.
See, most of us just ramble on about our time and our days, but actually it wasn't easy because in that time when I was playing cricket, the first class career just stretched for 3 games in your zone, and then you play a knockout game. So if you lose the first or the second, you just get 4 or 5 games to prove your worth. And that was all. In the whole year, you trained to play for those 4 or 5 games. And then from there, the selection would be. But having said that, it was the same for everybody. It was tough. It was, if you, and the problem was that if you, like what happened to me a lot, was you did very well in the domestic circuit and you were selected to play for India, and then you didn't do that well in your first couple of games, you were dropped, and then it was a real grind coming back. It took you another 2-3 years to get back. So in my case, my entire energies were consumed in the trek back to the Indian team, rather than, I could never really cement my place there over the 10-12 years that I played for India. So it was very, very difficult for me.
And did you decide from the beginning that you wanted to go into the opening slot, or was there any other, thoughts coming in your mind that you might be a middle order player?
Cyrus, actually, I was a middle order player. I never opened for any other team other than India. But in those days, there was absolutely no space in the middle order. So the selectors would select me because I was so prolific at number 3 in the domestic circuit. So the only place that I ever had a chance to play was opening. So I used to open, and there's not too much difference between playing 3 and opening, because you're almost always there in the first 5-7 overs.
And who do you think you were competing with in those days? Who was the guy who was really, really strong in those slots of 1, 2, 3?
Well, I was competing with not too much competition those days, Cyrus. There was only one little man called Sunil Gavaskar. So he was my main competitor, also a dear friend. We're still very close. But he was very good to me, in the sense that although I opened with him in my first few tests, he was never patronizing. He was never speaking from a position that he had acquired. He was always trying to be at my level, and I thank him for that.
And you had some great partnerships with him, which is commendable, and it speaks volumes of how you both went on with your careers. Now coming back to your home ground, your home city, what is it that Arun Lal loves about Eden Gardens that he averages 72 in test at Eden Gardens? Was that pitch so good to you, or you didn't find anything elsewhere but in Eden Gardens? So tell us something about the love for Eden Gardens. And, when you made your name as a Bengal and East Zone cricketer, Eden Gardens played an important part. Something about Eden Gardens and the love for that.
Well, you tend to start loving a place where you start scoring runs, and it just happens that you feel that much more comfortable. But more than Eden Gardens, Cyrus, it's the warmth that I felt in Kolkata. I mean, um, it's difficult to describe. My personal experience is that I've never been so appreciated, so loved, and so prayed for. People would come to me and say that, I've just early morning before I go for a match, people would land up at my house and give me prasad. I've just been to the Kali temple for you. I mean, it's unbelievable what I have experienced and what I've got from this city. But all that love and all that affection and all that warmth um, is also added pressure. Because you then feel that you can't really go in just, uh, uh, let's say, just by yourself. You're walking in for so many thousands who are really willing you to succeed, and that's what helped me through it. And I can tell you, uh, I love Calcutta more than anybody else I know.
Yeah, I mean, because it's such a large ground and you get so intimated playing over there, and a lot of players find it so difficult, to play in Eden Gardens. But having that average speaks volumes of the way you performed in that. My next question,
Cyrus,
yes,
Cyrus, one thing I want to tell you now, when you said that, that crowd in Eden Gardens, my first test match at Eden Gardens, when I walked in there, uh, you know, uh, I decided that I'm not going to focus on the crowd. And I remember that the first ball I faced, there was this huge roar that came from the crowd, and uh, it hit me. It hit me like a wave, and that is something I'd never experienced before. And it went right through me. Fortunately, I was so tense that I hadn't eaten breakfast at all. Otherwise, I would have thrown up because it churned my stomach over. The tension and the atmosphere. But once I got used to it, it was fantastic. It's like no other sensation you've ever felt.
no, it's really true, because it's such an iconic stadium, and to basically have that kind of averages over there is absolutely amazing. My next question to you would be, if you have to sum up your career, what is your greatest cricketing achievement that Arun Lal has had in his career? The one thing that stands out for you in that entire years of hard work that you put in.
Well, if you want me to put one achievement, I've got to say the Ranji Trophy for Bengal. It was such a special thing for all of us as a team to be able to come out of nowhere and beat big teams. In those days, the quarterfinals, we beat Bombay in at the Eden Gardens. Then we beat Hyderabad in the semi-finals, and Delhi, that had 9 current India cricketers. We weren't even given a snowball's chance in AL to down Delhi in a 5-day game in the final, and we managed to do it. So I thought that was not only my greatest achievement, but we as a team performed miraculously.
Which brings me to one more question, which I have. It's a personal question. You've seen Saurav Ganguly play cricket even before he became an India captain. What made you think that he will make it to that level? Was there something extraordinary that you saw in him, which you felt was lacking in a lot of other players as such? Something that you saw which felt, being from the same state, that you felt that he will make it so big.
Saurav, as a 17-year-old, I didn't know him. I had hardly seen him. I just heard about this young man who's very good, very talented. And we played an exhibition game at CCFC on a Sunday game, and he was playing. And I saw this young kid. He was hitting the ball outside CCFC onto the tram lines with effortless ease, and he was all of 17. His sense of timing, I think that day he hit about 7 or 8 sixes. And immediately I was floored. This was some exceptional talent I had not viewed before. I certainly never had it. And he had this gift of timing. He just struck the ball, and the uncocking of the wrist, maybe I'm getting too technical, but he was absolutely sensational. And, I'll tell you a story. I was on air doing commentary, and Harsha Bhogle asked me a question. This was way past Saurav. Saurav had gone to Australia, and he had failed, and he was dropped. And then he was playing the domestic circuit, and I was doing commentary. And Harsha asked me that, the English tour is going to be there in another few weeks. What would your team be? And there would be any surprises? And I said, listen, there's one person that's got to be on it, is Saurav Ganguly. And he laughed, he scoffed at me on air. And he said, listen, you can't see beyond East Zone and Bengal. I said, no, listen, this is something special. What I've seen and experienced is amazing. And the rest is history. He sort of was selected. A lot of them believed that he shouldn't have been there, but he went there and he got those hundreds in England. And since then, there was no stopping him. But actually, I must tell you, I've always been a fan of Saurav Ganguly's, maybe even a mentor at times. But he even surprised me with his achievements, because as days got by, he matured very well. His leadership qualities came to the fore, which were not visible earlier. Just his talent was there for all to see. But he has surprised everybody, I'm sure, even his family, even his near and dear ones, with his achievements.
Okay, on that note, I'll hand you back over to Sai and take you over to your next stint, which is your current stint, the commentary. Back to you, Sai.
Thanks a lot. And talking of Saurav Ganguly, there's been so much said about how you were his role model, and he's always looked up to you as the fighter in Lal, is what probably rubbed off on him as well. I think that was an amazing factor there. So a lot of his success would be due to you as well, because he had someone that he could look up to. And now, Arun, a question once again from a youngster who was in the Bonvita Academy, and he started playing at the age of 8. He opens the batting now for Parsi Club. He's still very, very young. And he's got 2 questions for you. His name is Ajad Alam. And his first question is, how can I control feeling nervous when I go in to open the batting, especially in the CAB League? I don't feel nervous when I go in to open the batting when I'm playing CAB under 15 or under 18.
Okay, let me tell you that nervousness is normal. It's natural. Even a Viv Richards or a Sachin Tendulkar is nervous before he goes into bat. The idea is that if you're not nervous, you're not going to perform your best. You've got to have that nervousness, that little bit of fear to keep you on the right track. But you've got to harness it. You don't allow it to get the better of you. And, I used to tackle it. I was very nervous many times of many days before games. I would actually meditate. I would do that for about an hour in the evening quietly to help me meditate. I used to go to this Kali temple, the Dakat Kali Bari in Deshape Park. It used to shut at about 6 o'clock. I would go there at about 6:30 and sit alone. It's a very small mandir. And I would just concentrate on the murti, not asking for help from the Lord, but just concentrating and meditating. So that helped me a lot. So nervousness is, don't be scared of being nervous. Under 15, you've found your space, you're settled, you're pretty good at what you're doing. You feel secure, so you're not that nervous. But yeah, every step forward you take, it's obvious that you'll be nervous. So don't fear it. Basically, try and make it work for you.
And he's got a bit of a technical one for you here, so I don't know how you'll handle it. He says, I have a problem with my head falling over to the leg side sometimes while batting. So what can I do to correct this?
Head falling over to the offside, he means.
He's got leg over here. I'm not too sure.
No, it's basically, it's about keeping your eye level straight. When you're viewing the ball, try and get your head straight. If you watch Saurav or Rahul Dravid batting when they first came into bat, they'd keep doing this, keep their neck. As you get on with age, your neck is not so flexible. So you want to keep your eye line straight. If your head is a little tilted, you might not have the same balance. Like everything else in life, as life is all about balance, cricket, if you want to ask me the one essence of batting, it's balance more than anything else. So make sure that you keep your head position right. Don't lean over, and keep it within the center of gravity, within your body, so that you are not disbalanced at all. Uh, you can have your elbow coming from wherever and your back lift coming from wherever. But if your balance is right and you're stable, then you can still manage. So make sure. And if you want, you can come to Born Vita, and I can correct you there. I can give you advice there as well.
Well, Ajay, that's a wonderful offer, and I'm sure you will take Arun up on it. You're just next door. Parsi Club shares a common wall with Born Vita Academy almost. And we look forward to seeing you at Born Vita. Thank you so much, Arun. And now to come out at the time you decided that you were going to retire from competitive cricket, did you have anything in mind that the sport still had for you? Had you been approached as a commentator? Had you been approached to write a column? What did you think would be your role in cricket outside playing on the field?
Cyrus, because of this extended cricketing career, I had forsaken and burnt all my bridges in the commercial world. I had given up that job, and I had taken on a bank job. So yes, there was that fear that what next, and how am I going to really handle myself? Cricket never made money in those days. I will tell you, ballpark figure, I played for India from 79 to 89, that is 10 years, in and out of the team. I was never a star, but I traveled a lot with the team. I was in the 16 and didn't get a chance in the 11, numerous series. And in all that, in all those 10 years, I made 2 lakhs of rupees. And when I finished doing commentary, I was earning 1.5 lakhs a day doing commentary. So basically, at that time, when I finished my cricketing career, there was this fear as what next. But I knew that I would, if I had got a chance to try my hand at commentary, I would do a little bit of writing. I had some contacts. I had done a little bit of writing. I had done the odd commentary stint. And I had what was to me a great asset. I could converse in 2 languages, Hindi and English. I could talk in a lot of others, but actually I was very proficient in both, and I could, put into words what I was thinking quite naturally in both Hindi and English. So that's what really served me well in my commentary.
Okay, so, and what a career you made out of that as well, isn't it? I mean, you were a star on the field and then coming in over here and a star in the commentary box as well. Was it difficult becoming a commentator? I mean, you were suddenly on the other side of the fence. You were talking about people that you knew. You were describing their mistakes. You were describing their good points. Would it lead to controversy at times, or did it lead to a problem dealing with the people you knew so well?
Yeah, listen, that's always a dilemma, Cyrus, for most commentators. But I discovered very early that the secret of that was that, say, when I am commentating on Saurav Ganguly, who, a huge star, way beyond what I ever imagined that I would ever achieve, or I wasn't anywhere close. Now, when he's not playing well, I can hardly say he's playing well. I've got to describe it as it is. But don't belittle anybody on the field. He's playing for India. However bad a time or a rough time he's had there in that innings or in the last 4 or 5 innings, just make sure that you give the required respect as he deserves, and then say what you want to. So that always works well. So you never laugh at anybody. You laugh at situations. You never laugh at anybody on air. You never belittle anybody, however rough time he's having. And so that's the way forward. And I would, if I have to criticize a sort of Ganguly, I'd say that what a champion he is, and what he's achieved, what he's done. He's a magical player. This is just the situation for him. But unfortunately, today it hasn't worked out. He's all over the shop. So that works well. People don't hold it against you. But if you bring them down, then people get their backs up.
Right. So that's one way of getting through to it. I'm absolutely right. And would you do a lot of homework before you went in? I mean, into that commentary box, or needed statistics, or you needed facts and figures, or was that given to you and you read it up on your own in any case because you were keeping up with everything that was taking place?
Cyrus, for me, it was very different. I never did homework. The statistics, as you know it, has got nothing to do with me. But there's this fabulous statistician sitting next to you. He's feeding you with whatever you want. You can ask for it. He's supplying you with it, so you look and appear very knowledgeable, which I never was, as far as statistics are concerned. And homework, I had a very different take on it, because I wanted to be as instinctive as possible rather than prepared. Because once you prepare, then you're going in with an agenda that, oh, I know all this and I've got to fit it into my commentary. And then you lose that, that instinctiveness, that you've got to let it flow and let it happen. One more thing I would do, and that required guts, because when you're doing commentary, suppose I have to do commentary after Ravi Shastri and Gavaskar duo, and I am on next with, say, Sanjay Manjrekar. Now, I would make it a point that I didn't hear what Gavaskar and Shastri were talking about, because otherwise I would be so colored by that and I would just repeat what they said. So there were times when I said something diametrically opposite to what they had said, but that's okay. It's my take on it. That was Gavaskar. This is Arun Lal. So you must not lose your own identity by getting carried away and being overawed by these huge names. So that was one thing I think served me well, and I was never, let's say, hemmed in by what others had, what observations they had made. I was just free flowing, my own, good, bad, or ugly, take it as it is. That's what I feel.
I think that's so true. When you're commentating, you have to come into your own. You have to let your own identity come out. And when you prepare for something and you go in and it doesn't happen, I think that's when you get thrown even more. It can really set you back. Well,
exactly.
You were talking of Ravi Shastri, and we've got a quick question here from Kaivan Mogrelia. We'd have asked him to ask it himself, but I believe he's a little late coming in. Kaivan, you there?
No, sir, you go ahead and ask that, please.
I'll go ahead. So he says, India is the best team. Have they got the best coach? Who would be your ideal candidate?
Ravi is fantastic. He's doing a great job. The thing about Ravi is that he's got a great equation with the captain. He's managed to get the team performing extremely well. These two, they're very aggressive, both of them by nature. They're very dominant, they're very confident, and that's rubbing off on the team. So at the moment, he's doing a fantastic job. And who else could do a good job? It's very difficult to say, Cyrus, till you're actually put there. It's not as though there's some real fantastic coach waiting outside to go in there and do his job. The other thing that I felt like coaching when I've come to coach Bengal is that my heart is in it. I breathe, eat, feel Bengal. I've played for Bengal. I love my time spent playing for Bengal. So that's important. If you can easily get a foreign coach, you can get a coach from out of state who's got all the requisite degrees. But sometimes the passion is missing. The desire, the desperate desire, the desperate love for it is missing. It's more a job. For somebody like me, it's a passion. I am experiencing the joy, the disappointment, everything. Probably multiplied manyfold more than the cricketers themselves. So that helps. So Ravi being there has added that value, because he's played for India a lot and he knows what it is to play for India and how he feels, and he equates with it. And so I think an Indian coach is better than a foreign coach. I also believe that Ravi is doing a fabulous job at the moment, and I don't know who else at the moment.
Thanks a lot for that. And this is Kaivan's second question. He says, when do you see ex-cricketers forming the BCCI? And what would you change about Indian cricket?
Oh, I've lived my life, Cyrus, trying to change Indian cricket. Yeah, with all this Cricketers Association, failed attempts. Everybody thought it was an attempted coup. Uh, well, anyway, it never worked out. These cricketers, we could never get our act together properly. It's not a criticism. It's just the situation is such in our country that the cricketers could never get together. Um, but cricketers coming into the administration, it's fantastic. Now we got Saurav Ganguly there, for God's sake. Who better? He's there at the helm of things. So I am very hopeful. I know that he's going to make great changes. He was doing a fabulous job for Bengal. He's not there anymore. Abhishek has taken over from him, but the guidance is still going to be from Saurav, as you expect. So yeah, I think cricketers obviously have that added advantage of having played the game at the highest level. So there is no doubt that if you have a good administrator who's played the game, is unbelievable. But not so many cricketers can make that fabulous administrators. So it's not that you just pack the board with cricketers and only cricketers. You may not have them. And if you ask me to find 25 cricketers who will run the board, I'm not sure I can actually get you those 25 names. So yes, while it's desirable, it's not that you just rush into it and it's always the way forward. The cricket board is doing a fantastic job, as they have been doing. There have been times when we felt that they can do better, but then that always will be there. So yes, Saurav is there. We want a few, 4, 5 more there to be heading their associations. The quicker, the better.
Right. So that was from BCCI. And now we've got Farhad Master, who had a quick question for you also on the BCCI. You getting Farhad on, Ratan?
Sorry, go ahead. I don't see him here.
Okay. So Farhad's question was basically, what are your thoughts on the BCCI's zonal selection policy?
There are pros and cons, Cyrus. It's such a vast country. If you want people to see local matches, it's important that you have the zonal system. It all depends on the quality of selectors. The fact that if tomorrow I am a selector from East Zone, then if I start viewing it in a narrow perspective and I don't see the larger picture, then I will try and push guys from my zone. But that's not the idea. The idea is you've got to represent and bring forward the candidates from your zone, not necessarily at the expense of other candidates. You've got to make sure that you have the larger picture, which is India. You bring forth the talent from your zone and place it before everybody else, and then have a larger perspective and select the team for India. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Even very parochial thinking in the zone, you are considered a successful selector if you've got 3 or 4 guys playing for India from your zone. And if you don't have anybody playing from your zone, you should be sacked. So that's also there. Those kind of pressures. But at the moment, I think you need that the fact that you have 5 selectors, and the recommendations of having just 3 earlier was too much of a job. It wasn't. You couldn't do justice to living out of Calcutta. If you've got to go and see games in Kerala, and the next day in Jammu and Kashmir, and the next day in Assam, it was physically impossible. Not only the first class matches, but if you have these zonal selectors, like say Devang Gandhi is here, he's also watching some games, when he's got a little time in the Calcutta League. He's also watching Ranji Trophy games that are going on in Odisha, going on in, Assam. So there is a lot going for having zonal selectors.
Thanks a lot for that. And that was Farhad Master asking for that. Well, you've done a lot of commentary as you went. How would you keep yourself fit? You're such a fitness freak. You can't do without your workouts. You can't do without a jog. So when you had a hectic schedule, day-night games and things like that, how would you keep yourself fit?
With me, it's a way of life, Cyrus. I feel that, like you eat and you sleep and you work, you exercise. So I always found time to exercise. In fact, I was pretty maniacal about it in my playing days. We used to have a lot of off time and you had to keep fit and get stronger and stronger. I've even run on Baligan Circular Road at 2 o'clock at night in the rain. I had dogs chasing me, I had cops chasing me, but I was that kind of a person, and I loved running, and running was part of me. And it was, if I didn't run, I didn't feel quite complete. So for me, it's never difficult to find time for exercise. And fortunately, in commentary, you have a day on and 2 days off, and so you found enough time to work out.
Great. And I'm sure you did that quite constantly and happily. We move to a time in your life now, Arun, which was must have been a real trauma for you. But then you've always been so fit. You've always been a fighter. And it was the fighter Lal that stonewalled cancer when you went through a 14-hour operation and came out with it. You've been so positive right through. You've been a role model, I think, to any cancer patient who's had that. And we have the first question for you before I come back to you. And this is from the Pasi Club president, Mrs. Prochi Mehta. And she says, can you tell us how your fight for cancer has changed your view of life? And what advice would you like to give us?
Prochi, how it's changed me, I think I've become more aware of my being. I try and live every day completely as though it's my last. It's a very cliched, sentence. Live life like, there's no tomorrow. But it actually comes home to you when you go through something like this. And you know that it's finite. You know that it can end very quickly. So, don't leave anything for tomorrow. Love every day, love yourself, and always stay positive. And, I often tell everybody that, everybody says you're a fighter, but when your back is to the wall and you have no other choice, everybody's going to fight. It's got nothing to do with me as a fighter. Anybody you've got to be placed in that situation, and you have to be just positive. Really, I must tell you this, that when at the worst, just going in for my operation, it never once occurred to me that I'm not going to live through this. Never once, not even once did it come to me that I might not survive this. So if that is fighting it, or if that is positivity, I was very positive. I viewed it as just another ailment, and I am in the best hands, and I'm getting treated for it. And yes, this too shall pass. It will end, and I will be the richer for it. And I am actually. I've never been happier. I'm loving my life. I'm pursuing all my passions. I've been freed somewhat from the shackles of society, of your loved ones, your anything and everything. I feel that I am now actually living, and before this I didn't quite live. I was so concerned about everything around me rather than myself. But today I am myself.
Prochi, would you like to take that a little further?
Arun,
sorry, you'd have to unmute. Yeah.
Arun, what advice would you give us to leading our lives?
I can hardly do that, Prochi. But seriously, love yourself. It's all about yourself. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. We are so shackled by society, the norms of it. I don't mean go out there and be disrespectful or arrogant or anything like that, but uh, just love every day, love every breath if you can. Enjoy the sunrise, enjoy the sunset, enjoy the night, enjoy the afternoon, enjoy the heat, enjoy the rain. Um, Enjoyment has got nothing to do with anything else but yourself. It's all internal, and it will just help you all the time, and that will keep us positive and loving everything. The happier I am, the more I can love people and forgive people for everything that's happening around me. So that's I'm sounding like a lifestyle guru, but really, it's really nice to be what I'm feeling here.
Wonderful. So that's the advice coming out from Arun Lal. And now a quick question from a person who's been through it as well, Yazdi Karai. Would you like to come in? Can we get Yazdi on, please?
Hey, hi Arun, long time.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So, Arun, I've been where you've been, and one of the things that hit me very hard was that there's not a lot of information around for people to guide you in returning to physical fitness from the effects of radiation and chemo,
Mhm.
to an extent where you can go get back to physical fitness, play your favorite sport, or even hit the gym. So I went through a lot of learning and research. Now, how did you deal with it? How did you get back to fitness? Who guided you, and where did you get your information from?
Uh, I don't know. I wasn't looking for information really. When I came out of this, I had a problem with my leg because they had removed the bone from my leg, and made my face. Also, they had cut my neck, so there were about 150 nerves that were disturbed, and my right arm was paralyzed. So I was on crutches with my left hand. I couldn't move my right hand. And when I asked people about it, they said that, it'll come back, it'll come back. It's so many nerves that have been cut. And I didn't even know that it's nerves that made your arms and feet move. I thought it was muscle, and I had good muscle, but I couldn't move my arm. But, it's when they say it's physiotherapy and the will. So what my doctor had told me is put your arm against the wall and start exerting pressure. And it was very tough. At times I couldn't exert any pressure. But believe me, within 3 months' time, I was doing 200 push-ups a day on that same very arm. So the human body and the human mind, to me, is Superman. It can achieve anything. Just when you think you've had it, if you let it go and you don't do it, and you don't believe, then it won't happen. But if you're wanting to do it and you believe that you can do it, and you will not rest till your dying day till you do it, you will do it. It's all about the will, the word will. When you say that I will do it, you will do it. But if you say I will try my best, then you won't do it. Then it doesn't work. You'll be surprised that um, uh, it took me about a year to start walking fast and well on that other leg. And now I'm doing aerobics and I'm even running. And before my operation, I had bad knees because the onset of arthritis. I lost so much weight that I'm now running and my knees are not paining. So um, I don't know. I'm not looking for information, but I'm telling everybody that more than information you'll be limited by somebody else's experience. You just do it. You just go there and will yourself to do it, and you will do it. There's nothing stopping you.
Well, that was really inspirational coming from Arun. And I can tell you one thing, that Yazdi was quite an inspiration for everyone else, because he came back from this and he got back onto a tennis court and he was playing.
Wow.
There was everyone else saying, my back is paining and my arm is paining and my shoulder is paining. And here's a guy who's come out of major surgery and he was still managing to hit them, and that keenness and the love for the game kept him going. So
There
the
you are.
inspiration
There
was
you are.
surely there. It was certainly there. So that was the cancer side of it, I'm going to take you back to Dubai now and bring Cyrus Debara back onto you. And Debs, back to you now.
Cyrus, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something about me being a fighter and how I influenced Saurav Ganguly, the fighter. It wasn't always like that. None of us were really fighters. I'll tell you an incident. We were playing this Deodhar Trophy match in Bangalore, it was. And in those days, we were staying in the Bangalore stadium in the rooms there. We were accommodated there. We didn't have these fancy 5-star hotels. And I remember waking up or being disturbed, getting up in the morning. We had won the match and we had to go to Vizag. The flight was at about 9 o'clock. So I got up at about 4. And I went to the loo. The light wasn't working. I put the switch on. The light wasn't working. I got into the loo, and there this a very dark shape came out from behind the door, darker than the dark of the night. And I was almost going to die of heart attack because I fell back and I fell. There was one step to the loo, so I fell back and I fell onto the bed, and this dark ghostly shape came towards me, and there was this glint of steel, and there was something on my lip here, and it was all dark, and there was for about a couple of seconds a silence, and I couldn't breathe. Then this voice I heard saying that "Awaz nahi karne ka." And then I realized that, oh gosh, this is a guy, this is somebody, so at least he's not killing me for the moment. And he said, turn on the light, and I turned on the light, and Saurav was sleeping. He was my room partner. We were sharing a room, so he was sleeping. He was a little baby. He was sleeping, and he saw Saurav sleeping. And when the light was on, there was this man with a sword, with one of these Roman kind of swords, long sword, and he had his face covered with a hood with slits, like just in the movies. And he said, "Wake him up." So I thought, if I wake up Saurav, he's a young, confident little kid. He might wake up and go for this guy, and that could spell disaster because some of us could get hurt. So I was a little skeptical about waking him up. But hey, wake him up. So I nudged at his toe. Saurav, wake up, wake up. He wouldn't wake up. And finally, I yanked his leg, and Saurav got up like that. And he looked at him, and I turned around saying, Saurav, take it easy, take it easy. The next thing I saw was from a lying position, how somebody, like a jackrabbit, he jumped about 6 or 8 feet and disappeared. And I looked around for Saurav, I couldn't find him. And then I see that he's got both his hands behind my shoulders, behind me, and his head is peeping from behind my head. So that was Saurav Ganguly, the fighter. And when this whole thing finished, this entire thing finished, he couldn't even get into the loo to have a bath. He said, no, I'm not going there. He was too scared to enter the bathroom. And he said, I'll have a bath in Vizag. That guy, that was Saurav Ganguly. And now look at Saurav Ganguly leading the nation. I mean, so nobody's really a true fighter, actually.
So he just knew when to attack and when to defend, basically. That's what he came
exactly.
across.
Live to fight another day.
I think now he can just walk into any room, for that matter, without a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing words from you, sir. Especially those words about willpower, fighting, passionate. I think it's a lot got to do with the game. I think the game also gives you a lot back, which you then use in your life. And that's what I understood from your last segment, that, in your playing days, there was a lot of grit, there was a lot of determination, and that helped you also to overcome a lot of things that you may not have realized would have come in your life. So
absolutely right, Saurav. Cyrus. The other thing I think is, I love cricket. I mean, I like they say, cricket is a way of life. It's a character builder. But I do believe that if you haven't played sport, not necessarily at the highest level, if you haven't played sport, you're only half educated and almost 70% incapable of handling life the way you want to. You're absolutely right. I think the cricket, the pressure, the success, the disappointment, um, the character that sport brings out in you and builds and inculcates in you is what served me well during those difficult times.
Okay, which brings us to our next section, ladies and gentlemen, which is Arun Lal, the coach. Now, my first reaction on this is uh, you have an academy. What are the motivations and challenges in running an academy? I mean, how do you form it? What are your ideologies of running in it, and how you face those challenges in creating players in that academy?
Uh, Cyrus, when I first started this concept, the idea was that we'll test every guy who comes in. We'll only take the best, and we will keep it really tight and make cricketers. We'll make players. Only those good ones we'll take, and we'll make them into Ranji Trophy cricketers and hopefully cricketers for India. Then, one day a lady came to me and she said that, Arun, I'm so embarrassed, but you have selected my son and you have rejected his cousin, and his cousin has gone into depression. And he's all of 7 years old. He is mentally disturbed. So, can you please accommodate him even for a short while till he gets over this trauma? I said, yeah, certainly. And I was so ashamed of myself that, who am I to play God at age 7? How can I say that your son is better than this other kid here and he's got more talent to play for India? I am not God. I have no idea what's going to happen the next 10, 15 years. So that's slowly, my thinking changed. My idea was to try and give more and more people a chance to play. Kids, make them happy, not necessarily putting pressure on them to play for India. Every child has a fundamental right to play, and I'm not going to deny him. So we decided that we're going to take anyone and everyone who comes, make sure that he's happy, make sure that he's enjoying himself, and from there you keep seeing guys who are getting better than the others, then start putting in a little more pressure with those guys. Some of them start playing for the academy, then go on to play for second division clubs, and go on and so forth. So the idea is to give as many kids a chance to play, to enjoy, to love sport, to exhilarate, to enjoy each other, teamwork, spirit. When we have our internal intra-academy matches, it's such a joy. You must come and see. Kids who are playing with each other and winning and losing, hitting a four or getting a wicket is as though they won the World Cup. The high fives, the chest thumping, the joy. So that's what I have an academy for, to give more and more kids a chance to play. And of course, tutor them slowly. Another thing I learned on the job was that the more instructional I got, the more technical I got, the more the joy went out of the game for the kid. So I am very conscious of not being too much of a coach there. I'm more of a friend, more of it's like a play school. Very gently start inculcating technique and pressure and discipline and confidence and determination and fitness, all that gently into the kid. But if he's enjoying himself, he's learning. If he's not enjoying himself, you can do whatever you want. He's not going to learn.
Did you ever think that you'll become a neighbor at the Maidan? You'll be opening your academy next to Calcutta Parsi Club? Was there any?
No. No, nothing like that. Cyrus, is just one of those things that happened. This was a defunct club, and the secretary, we got together, and I managed to get a sponsor. And it was like a lake. It took 400 lorry loads of mud to fill it up first, because anyone and everyone would take mud from here to make their clubs. And this was a defunct kind of an area. But it's taken 25 years of my life with kids, and it's been terrific. It's been one of the best things that's happened to me.
Okay, we have a lot of questions on this, on the coaching aspect. But tell us something about the recent Ranji campaign. What were the areas that you changed which were not there in the team, and how did you get back to the winning ways?
I can't really answer that, Cyrus. I mean, it's not that I have a magic formula. It just happened. So you take the credit. But let me say it once again that your coach is only as good as his team is. If the material is not there, you can't really do very much. But so I had a very talented bunch. It's just that they were not looking at the larger picture. They were not enjoying themselves. They were not playing for each other. So that's basically what I tried to fashion. That you've got to love each other. You've got to play for each other. You've got to mind each other's back. And you cannot be a divided house. You've got to love it. You've got to love the sport. You've got to love the heat. You've got to love the sweat. You've got to love the smell of grass. All that. So with time, with togetherness, we had a 2-month fitness, grueling fitness regime. You know, I went back to the old-fashioned ways. Whether they agreed with it or not, I was in charge, so I did it my way. I really put them through misery. I made them run in scorching heat. I made them run in rain. I made them train, and I made them exercise for about 2 hours and then nets for 2 hours. And then, you know, all of them were not convinced. There were murmurings, there was criticism in the press. But when they started doing well and when it started happening for them, they understood. You know, there's never a truer saying, Cyrus, that, you know, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि भगवान भी तेरे से पूछे बोल तेरी रज़ा क्या है. Yeah, when you work that hard, when you want something so bad, the entire universe conspires to make it happen. We won such unbelievable matches, and not one, not two. We won 4 in a row to qualify and to reach the final. Dead matches, finished dead and buried. 60 for 5, 40 for 6 on day one, losing tosses on, which really hampered us. But someone always stood up and we won. I don't know how we won. So it's obviously not coaching. It's to do with team spirit. It's to do with luck coming your way. It's to do with the vibes, with each other, and the will to succeed. So I think that's come into the team. And now they are, during this lockdown, we are doing online coaching and fitness going on, through Zoom. I didn't even know it's possible. Through that Google Duo, another app like this, there are batches of 12 of us who are coaching, training together, and our fitness trainer is actually overseeing everything as I am. And all the guys can't wait for the next season to begin. So that desperation has come into them. The belief has come into them. The desire has come to them. Each fast bowler is wanting to bowl that 2 yards faster. Each batsman is wanting to score those 200 runs more that is required in the season. So they're eager. They're desperate for the season to begin. I think that's been my contribution.
One question I wanted to ask you from my side was that I have seen a bit of a transformation as far as the bowling department in Indian cricket is concerned. We are suddenly producing a good quartet of fast bowlers, something that was not there. Is it due to the pitches on the overall that have changed in India? Is there some kind of a program that's coming through on that, on a coach perspective, or something that you've seen? But we've really seen suddenly fast bowlers bursting out.
Exactly right, sir. Now it's been there for about 7-8 years. The board decided that they will have, a minimum of 4 to 6 millimeters of grass on the wicket. They'll have neutral curators that come and make so that make sure that if you've got spinners, you don't make dust bowls, advantage of home, don't carry it to the extreme. So we've got wickets which are very pacer friendly. And hence the medium pace. Every team has 3 medium pacers rather than 3 spinners. And we've gone the other way. Now we've got real good fast bowling bench strength as well. We've got, in fact, you look at Bengal, I think we've got the best fast bowling attack in the country. And I'm not saying it because it's my team. I think these three young kids are really fast. They're really good, and they're getting stronger with each year. And you watch out for them the next year. One of them is already ready to play for India. So things are happening in the fast bowling department. There has been a little bit of a side effect to that, that the spinners are now missing out on it. So you don't have those quality spinners coming out because they're not getting that much opportunity. So maybe the board has to tweak it a little, that the ideal wicket would be great for fast bowling the first day or so, then batting for the next 2 days, then spinners for the next day or so. So that's not happening. It's the medium pacers that are ruling the roost at the moment. So maybe there is a little adjustment to be done to the pitches as well.
Okay, that brings me to my next set of guests that have questions for you. I'll start with Rayoman Sabawala. His first question is, do you think that the Vision 2020 program for grooming Bengal cricketers has borne fruit? Also, which current Bengal cricketer stands the best chance of breaking through to the national level?
Well, see, the 2020 program, call it whatever. Look at the coincidence that 2020 was the name of the program, and 2020 it was that Bengal did so well in the final, reaching the final. We should have won it. There'll always be a disappointment, but certainly it's borne fruit. People like Mukesh Kumar, who's the fast bowler, he's come through. Even Akashdeep, who's sensational young man. Both these guys are very young. And Ishan Porel, I think, is now ready to play for India. His fitness levels were a question mark a year or so ago, but he's now working very hard to address that. He's bowling pretty unplayable balls. He's throughout the season the bowler that's who's got the crucial wicket and the main wickets. He's a good bowler against a good batsman, so he's there. We have Abhimanyu Ishwaran as a batsman who had a horrific season last year, but he's got it in him what it takes to play for India. His work ethic is unbelievable. So he's 21, 22-year-old guy who's leading Bengal because of his work ethic and his energy and his demeanor. He's such a nice young man, and of course his prolific nature of scoring runs. So we have a few. I think our fast bowling attack is great. There's this guy called Shahbaz Ahmed, who's a young man, left-arm spinner batsman, who's been fantastic. He is a great candidate as well. So we have a few who are there. We already have Riddhiman Saha there. Mohammad Shami is there. So we are doing pretty okay and eagerly awaiting the next season.
Okay, the next question from Rayoman is, do you prefer the concept of home and away matches, or playing on neutral venues a better option to be used for domestic cricket?
No, home and away any day. This neutral venue is a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. You've got to rev up interest in the game in your city and state. You've got to inspire the next generation. In fact, I think the states have got a lot of work to do in filling up stadiums for first-class cricket. They should make it free for schools. They should actually approach schools to send certain teams, certain classes to come and watch the games as an invitation. Give them free lunches, have free lotteries. 5 motorbikes will be given as prizes for your lottery ticket on a free ticket if you're there at the end of if you're there the whole day. So they have these kind of responsibilities to nurture. And home and away is always a challenge. When you're playing away, it's going to be wickets which are more or less going to favor the home side, their strengths, even though they are neutral curators, but it's still 60-70% will be loaded in their favor. So it's always a challenge to go there and try and beat them there. just like it is all over the world. I mean, but for Pakistan, for unnatural reasons, you go and play Australia in Australia. You don't play Australia in England. You know, so the idea is always home and away. And that's always a challenge. And that's part of the game that I don't want ever to disturb.
Okay. Are you considering continuing as the Bengal cricket coach? Any area that you have you think that still is left for Arun Lal to accomplish, even off the field?
The fact that you say that is great. Cyrus, I believe that everything has a shelf life. Coach has a shelf life. Captain has a shelf life. Everything has a shelf life. In the first 3-4 years, you give what you have to, and then you move on. But yeah, I think I can still be there for a year or two. And the job is still unfinished. We didn't quite clinch it. So that's the challenge that remains. I've grown to love these kids. It's been a fantastic journey, emotional as well. So we are a family, and going forward, now that the guys have understood that they are as good as anybody else, and they are second to none, and they can win it. So the next year is going to be fantastic for a coach, because now I'm probably going to see them play to their potential. I still believe Bengal played only 60% to their potential.
Okay. Our next set of questions comes from Arwan Mogrelia. His first question is, in the last 7-8 years, we've seen Karnataka being a dominant force, winning the treble in back-to-back seasons, as well as the multiple Vijay Hazare Trophy titles too. As a result, a lot of their players are either in the Indian team or knocking on the door. What do you think they have done right, and how can Bengal cricket learn from that? So he's put Karnataka on the...
He's right. They're obviously doing fantastically well. Their performances. You see, there are two aspects to state cricket. One is winning trophies. The other is actually creating players to go and play for India. That's the other responsibility you have, to supply players for India. Make them good enough to represent their country, not only your state. So those are the twin objectives. And Karnataka has obviously been the front runner there. You've got to learn from them. But you know how it works, Harris, is that once you get the momentum, it feeds on itself. The idea is to first start the momentum, start the ball rolling. And then as you succeed, one other cricketer finds a place in the Indian team. The guys left behind feel that, oh God, if he can play, I can play as well. So it sort of just snowballs, and it has that rolling effect. The main thing is to keep that momentum alive. You've got to make sure that you carry on going that way, and don't let that break in momentum happen. So that is going to be my challenge. We have started the ball rolling. We've got to keep pushing it, and not necessarily keep doing what Karnataka is doing. Learn from them in the sense that learn this momentum and keeping that momentum alive. Let it not be, one spark that happened. Make sure that the consistency is there, and then it will carry on. And after a while, it'll just roll on for you.
Okay. Our next question comes from Danish Tarapur. Is Danish Tarapur in the group? Yes, Danish, you can go ahead with your question, please.
Since my question has already been answered, so I would just like...
I think we muted Danish.
I suddenly can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, go ahead, Danish.
Yeah.
Now you're...
Hello, sir. So
Hi, Danish.
Hello. I was just wanting to ask the question that since there's so many people now being chosen and getting selected into the Ranji teams, in the national teams, now that we have so many players in the national team, how is it that they are able to change the team with time to time, keeping the players in mind that they have to also play the matches? Like, there's so many people now that who are playing actually. So how is that balanced properly in the...
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. Can you just repeat? Ganesh?
My question was that there are so many players now who are emerging and who are selected in the Indian team. With that in mind, how are they balancing out which player needs to play when, and what type of a strategy has been involved in the selection
Uh,
of it?
just to
Okay.
rephrase it, Arun, I think he's
Yeah,
talking about the selection of the team with the current scenarios and the areas
yeah,
that you're
yeah,
playing in
yeah.
the grounds. Yeah.
It's very tough, Ganesh. It's really, really a difficult job. You know, we take selectors for granted. It's so difficult because there's so much talent and there's so much to select from that it's not an easy job. But having said that, they're doing a great job as well. They're putting their heart and soul into it. And it's always going to be hindsight. You select Arun Lal and you don't select X, and X was better because when Arun Lal fails, X comes and he does wonders. A lot of that happens, but that is the nature of selection. But if you are suggesting that players are rested and others given a chance to build the team, that doesn't quite happen. It's just that there are so many formats of the game now. There's the 2020, there's the one day, there's Test cricket. So a lot of players are getting an opportunity, so which is good. Even domestic cricket, there is so much cricket happening. It's almost non-stop. You know, Ranji Trophy is 4 days on, 4 days off for about 2.5 months, non-stop. A lot of people get injured, unfit, so new players get a chance. When they get a chance, they clinch it. So a lot of churning happens automatically without actual selection. So your bench strength gets enforced. So yeah, it's a tough job. And a lot of people take the selectors for granted. It's not that easy. You're absolutely right. It's a very tough job.
It
I think we
always
have
has been pretty tough, isn't it? And just a quick one here from Manoj Sivaya. Sorry, Debs, I happily cut in there. A quick question from Manoj.
Hi, Arun sir.
Hi, Manoj.
Sir, this is I have been following Bengal Ranji this season quite closely, and I think this one talent you have failed to mention is Anustup Majumdar, who has stood up in the last 3 or 4 games in the Ranji trophies every time the team needed him the most, and he was right up there to deliver. And I think he's some special talent who thrives on when the situation is going tough for the team, and he thrives on it and to score big runs for the team. He isn't good
Manoj,
enough to play for India soon.
Anushtup Majumdar is probably one of the most technically correct batsmen we have in Bengal. He is also a fabulous human being. He is extremely fit for his age. He is 34 years old. He's been playing for Bengal a lot. This year, he had the most magnificent season. In fact, my heart bleeds for him. My soul bleeds for him because at 40 for 6 in the quarterfinals, he got 160. We won the quarterfinals because of him. In the semifinals against Karnataka, we were 60 for 6. He got 150 not out in difficult conditions. We smashed Karnataka. We beat them by 180 odd runs. In the final, he was 60 when he got out. Overnight, he was batting at about 60. And I was just thinking to myself that if he can get those 70 runs and get 100, win us the Ranji Trophy, he will have erased every other cricketer that history has in Bengal. There would be only Anushtup Majumdar and Anushtup Majumdar alone. Nobody would have ever done what he had done from such difficult situations, winning you the game, every game. Before that, against Delhi, we were again about 60 for 5, and he went and got 100. He was run out then, or he was run out at 99, I remember. So, but for Anushtup Majumdar, we wouldn't even have qualified. I mean, so it goes without saying that he's the hero of Bengal. But you know, nothing succeeds like success. So if he had won the Ranji Trophy, there would be no other name in cricket followers of Bengal other than Anushtup Majumdar. I'm hoping he can do it for us again next year. As far as playing for India is concerned, who knows? Who knows if he has a season like this next year? He might just get in there, but he's not a candidate to play India A or anything because he's not a youngster. He's superbly fit for his 34 years old, and I think he's going to be an asset for us in the next 2-3 years. I am wishing him well, and I'm really dependent on him succeeding and having the same momentum next year. And would you believe it, that the first 3 games he was dropped? He didn't play the first 3 games. So from there he has come. He had a dismal the one-day series. So having so much going for him, he was still in the team, a senior cricketer, and dropped for first 3 games. That was the strength of Bengal cricket, that even though he was dropped, there was no ego trip. There was no hard feelings. When he got his opportunity, he just cracked the whip. He hammered it in that he is there to stay.
True.
And now a quick one from Nomi. Thank you, Manoj. And we just get Nomi in now. And after that, a quick wrap up. We've really pushed Arun quite a bit today. So we get Nomi Mehta. Can we have you in?
Hi, Nomi.
Hi, Neva.
How are you doing?
There's a lot that I have in common with Anushtup. I have also been dropped for last few Parsi games. We have what we call the World Cup of Parsi games. We play the Pentangular tournament. So I need your help, buddy, because I need to score a century and I need to learn the leg break and the googly. I can give you 30 days maximum. But
Listen,
you've got to give me 1 century in the Pentangular World Cup, whatever we call
I've got the perfect solution for you, Numi. I'll put you on to Anushtup Majumdar. He's also, in fact, he's tailor-made for you because he's also a leg spin googly bowler.
There you go.
So there you are, Numi. You've got it all made. All you have to do is just follow it up. And we really had a wonderful time. We've had a wonderful time here with Arun. You've all heard about Arun the fighter, Arun the cricketer. His pet name is Piggy Lal. And quick question on that. How did that come into being, Arun?
Oh gosh, don't remind me, Cyrus. As a youngster, I loved eating. And I would just eat anything and everything and in large quantities. So my sister would keep telling me, don't make a pig of yourself. Don't make a pig of yourself. From there it started. And she named me Piggy. And it stayed right through. I'll tell you a quick, very funny story. Ashok Malhotra and I were playing a professional cricket in Bangladesh. And he kept saying, no Piggy, yeah Piggy, come Piggy, stop Piggy. So the umpire suddenly asked me, we were playing the league match there. In the middle of the match, he asked me, ye Piggy ka kya matlab hai? So I said, Suel ka bacha. And in Bangladesh, that is the worst gali you can give anybody. So he didn't know whether to laugh or you were putting him on or anything. He had the most quizzical face and actually Suel ka bacha yaar.
So it's all because of the sister. They do so many things to us, isn't it?
I tell you, they're not always good.
But as we said, we've all heard about your cricketing exploits, your exploits in the commentary box, your exploits guarding Saurav Ganguly when the rubber came into the place. But we haven't talked at all about the real Arun Lal, the man who's a humanitarian. He's a man who loves wildlife. He's a man who's an environmentalist. And the amount that he has done by way of charity and in helping people is something most of you and a lot of people here will not know about. So can you tell us a little bit first about how you've helped people and then a little about how you've helped the civet cats and the dogs and the other animals that are all around us?
Cyrus, it's not a conscious decision that you make to help people. It happens. Like I tell you, life tugs and pulls and you just go with the flow. So, in Calcutta, in going with the trend and the soul of the city, you get pushed into it. One great thing that happened to me is my son, Vikash. That just happened. It wasn't a conscious decision. And it worked out more to my advantage, if I might add, than to his. And that's the best thing that Calcutta gave me. That is my son Vikash. Other than that, Cyrus, there used to be these articles in the Telegraph saying that so and so has topped or has done brilliantly in this entrance exam and cannot afford to pay for himself or herself. And I would ring up the Telegraph and I'd say, I'm there to support. And it never worked out. So then I found there's this Dr. Maiti, who would run these coaching classes in Salt Lake. And he had these very poor kids as well for these entrance exams in the medical profession or elsewhere. And he gave me a couple of names of kids who can't afford future education but are very brilliant. And so I helped them move on. And and some of them, one of them is a super specialty endocrinologist now in the PG in Calcutta. Dr. Anup Sarkari is one of the best endocrinologists in the country, I might add. So there's another who is in AIMS. Another son of mine is in AIMS in Delhi. He is in heart surgery. And there is one who's now in Sweden who did the IIT. So these kids who are extremely intelligent but can't afford it. My wife Reena and I would just fund them, pay for them monthly so that they come every month, meet us, and we can take them out for lunch, interact with them, and it just worked out beautifully for us. So it's not something that it was a conscious decision, but it was something that I enjoyed very much, and it was very fulfilling. So that's helped me a lot. And currently, it's always been in me is the environment, Cyrus. I eat, breathe, and love everything that is to do with the outdoors. I spend, if I could, I'd spend all 24 hours outside. As it is, I have my breakfast and lunch maybe outside, not at home. I love planting trees. That's my passion. And I even started very naively a movement with a few friends of mine to buy land only for the express purpose of planting trees. So that's worked out very well. But I had the vision of planting a forest and my contribution or our contribution of healing the world, but it didn't quite work out. But yet I still carry on planting trees. When trees fall in these Kal Baishakhi times in Calcutta, the kids in my academy and we go and we try and resurrect them rather than have them cut off and a new one planted. And you'll be surprised to know that there are at least 10, 12 trees on the Maidan, which would have been cut off by the PWD because they were obstructing traffic. But we cut the branches, we lifted them, cut the earth around them, stood them up, and they are flowering and they are fruiting. One mango tree is fruiting. So those kind of things is what occupies me most. I feed all the eagles, all the kites every day at 12:30, as you know. To a lot of people's dismay, we feed them every day. About 200 of them come home every day at 12 o'clock. We feed the civet cats at night. I feed the doves and the birds and the squirrels. And I look after orphaned birds. So that's what's occupying me. My number one passion at the moment is not cricket. It's the environment and animals and anything to do with animals. In fact, at the moment, as we speak, the Darwan tells me that there is a injured kite on the roof of the building next door. And then when we finish this, I'm going to get it before the civet cats get to him.
Well, we know one thing for sure, that if there's one person who's happy with himself, at peace with himself, and an inspiration, not just on the field, but off the field as well, it's Arun Lal. We've been really blessed and happy to have had you with us. And on behalf of all of us here at the Parsi Club, thank you for spending so much time and being with us. It's really been a pleasure. And enjoy the lockdown. I can see you're really happy inside it. You're so happy inside yourself. You've got the garden there, you've got the dogs there, you've got all your animals and friends around you. So have a great evening, and thank you for being with us.
Likewise.
Thank you very much for being a
Arun.
part of
Cheers. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you. Thank you, Prochi. Thank you.